Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you how you can spice up your tracks using interesting sounds and one-shots. I have this project over here, you guys have seen it before in some of the earlier videos. And today we're mainly going to be focusing on this area over here. What I want to do is I want to show you how to take part of the intro and part of the drops as well, and to make them just a little bit more interesting. I'll play the track through first so that you can hear what we're dealing with, but you'll basically hear that all of the ideas that we have are there, but it's not very interesting yet. As you can hear, all of the basic ideas are there. We have a one-shot roughly every 4 bars here, but there's nothing really that spices up the track. So that's what I want to look at today. Now the very first thing that we might need is a little bit of extra atmospheres and one-shots. I'm going to start with the one-shots. My main way of getting one-shots these days is through Omnisphere. So I just open up one of the categories. Let's try the ARP BPM for this one. And I just hit the shuffle over here, and then I'll listen to different presets. This first one that we hear is already interesting, so I just duplicate this over here. And then once I have that, I close out of the other Omnisphere and I just keep looking. I never really personally sound design inside of Omnisphere. I don't really know how to use it. I just mainly use it for the presets. I like this one as well. I think with a little bit of processing, we can get something cool out of that. And I'll just try to see if I can find maybe 5 or 6 more of them so that we can really have a lot of material to arrange. Alright, so after a little bit of preset digging, this is all of the sounds that I found. Nice little flute there. Nice little atmosphere thing. I have a bunch more atmospheres. You can always check them in different octaves. Maybe a sound is useful in multiple different octaves, or maybe you haven't found the right octave yet when you were browsing presets. So it's always important to check the octave that you're playing a sound in. Of course, for all of them, we're just playing them in the root note of G sharp. Here we have some more RP stuff. Some grittier stuff as well. I like a combination of different synths and stuff like that. And what I usually like to do is lay down the note first and then render all of the different notes and all of the different patterns that I think I want to use. Maybe if I have something melodic like this, I won't come up with the right MIDI straight away. So for those, I won't do this. But for most of them, I like to render them to audio. Mainly when I do these big collections over here, when I'm normally producing even this stuff over here, you can see it's still in MIDI, even though it is still using Omnisphere. But when I make these big collections, it is nice to collapse everything to audio, everything that you can, because Omnisphere is a little bit of a CPU-hungry plugin. So if you found a whole bunch of them and you're already in that kind of sound selection area, what you can do is limit yourself a little bit in your creativity by already rendering them out to audio. Now, what's often very important is to remove the delay of them. I'll also remove the reverb of this one. And I'm going to do that for all of the ones that have it. At least when it comes to all of the ARPs and stuff like that. For the atmospheres, we will be okay without taking off any of the delay and reverb. But we want to be able to put our own delay and reverb on it afterwards, so that's why we're doing this. Alright, so I've removed all of the delays and reverbs that I wanted. Now we just have to place down notes. And the easiest way to do that is just by making a MIDI clip that is going to be universal. So we're going to be in G sharp here. There we have one of them. And then I'm going to duplicate it over so that we can try an octave lower. That might be a nicer sound to go for. And we might also want to try an octave higher. I don't know if we'll keep that one, but we'll just take these MIDI clips and copy them over here. And now we can just freeze and flatten all of these at once. Okay, so now we have a whole bunch of different audio files that we can work with. As you can see, this flute one over here, I left that in MIDI, so that we can play around with that and actually write in the melody for that one later. But I'm just going to start by listening to one of them, and I like to make new tracks for this, so that I have a place to take the audio sample from and a place to put it down. So I'm just going to try out different ideas for the placement of these sounds. Turn these off so that they don't get in the way of our judgment. I do like that. I just want to edit the sample a little bit here. Just want to have a little bit less impact here. That's sounding nice. Now I just move on to the next one and we just make a new track for each sound that we have. These are going to be more like atmospheres, I guess. In terms of placement, I'm just placing them where I find that they fit well. And to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to keep it like this. What we're doing right now is just adding one sound at a time, and maybe we find that a different sound works better in the context that we have previously placed one of these sounds in. Like even right now, I'm not entirely happy with the placement of this sound over here. I'd like to maybe find a cooler sound for that, and not something that starts at the same time as, for example, this effect over here. We do have a lot of stuff already there piled up, but I think it will be okay if instead of that sound, we do it like this. Okay, so this is kind of like a flute. I would like to have more of maybe one of these here. Another track for this over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up over here, and then I'll use the division rule. Essentially, I'll just select 8 bars here and duplicate that over, meaning that now together we have this pattern over here, which as you can see is 16 bars long. And we can just duplicate that over here. And then right now this one is bleeding into there. So instead we'll have it over here, I think. Can hear we're starting to get some nice sounds in there. We'll try one of these here, just so that we can layer up one of them. Right now, I'm not yet concerned with the mix of all of these sounds. I just want to place them in the track to make sure that they are okay where they're placed. And what I'm strategically doing is keeping all of the elements separated that I want to treat differently. And I'm already making kind of judgments on what I want to do with the processing with them later. So I want one more in like the break area that we have before here. I want the one shots to be a little bit different in here, just so that that section is a little bit more unique. I do want to, however, keep some of these whale ones in here, which I really like. We'll have this one too, and we'll make this kind of like counter to the other one here. And then we have this big one over here. You can just Control X them so you know which one you've used already. But this will be placed right here in the middle. We want them to be so that these two are at the second division point, so over here and over here. And at the first division point, we have a little bit of a bigger atmosphere over here, longer sound here. We have some more sounds over here that we can use to, again, layer. It's usually a good tactic because it just makes sounds more interesting. Add one more sound that is going to layer here with this last one. Okay, so for now that is mainly our atmospheric stuff done. Just going to group that up and make that smaller so that we don't have to look at it. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these up here. I will just keep making audio tracks, and now we have to do the same thing that we did with the atmospheres, but instead for the synths. I knew I was missing one here. I want to start with this one because it's nice and like plucky and stuff. So I want to keep this in a spot where all of the dynamics can really come out. So maybe over here. Nice little stutter thing there. Or maybe the higher one is even better. What we can also do is layer these on top of each other. Because we have octaves of the same sound, we can place them like this and then group them together. And then we'll use them as two layers that we can then process together. Okay, I want a little bit of extra help going into the drop here. So what I think we'll do is we'll use this one over here. Now, I was going to stretch this, but I don't think that that's a good idea. I want one more sound over here that really impacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to just move this one here and then we'll just repeat one of them. I'll try to make a selection like this maybe over here. And then because we are inserting that, we'll have to do some crossfading here, just to make sure that there's no clicks in the file and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. We have some more aggressive synths as well, I think. Before we have still some like nice and sparkly ones. So I'm going to divide these up into 4. This is our free track here. There, 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 there. The way that we will arrange these are also every 8 bars. I think we maybe have accidentally just found a spot for it. Because as you can see, it snaps to here. and here and here. And then we'll have one more over here. And that kind of fits in with our 32 bars over here, which is this one unique idea on top of the drop. I'm sure once we mix it in, it will sound a lot better. What I do quickly want to do is move this over here and this one over here, because I want them to switch octaves. And this one is from the higher octave, and this one is from the mid octave. So I want it to go up and down and up and down. I'm just going to continue adding some of these other synths over here. This one looks fairly distorted. Let's maybe use that one octave lower so that we get a nice gritty sound out of that. This is the kind of sounds that I'll probably just use once. Maybe over here, there seems to be a little bit of an empty spot. We can use it there. Of course, if you really can't find a good space for a sound, then just don't use it. I do like to give every sound a chance. This one can be very interesting. This should have its own track though, of course. That sounds like a good spot for it. Of course, I'm keeping all of the other files around if I ever need one-shots in other spaces, which I probably will. Then it's nice to have the files around so that you have other stuff that you can choose from, as opposed to just having the ones that you keep over here. Here we have another digital one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over here so that it lines up here. And I'll delete this one out of here so that we have one, and then we have 16 bars later, we have kind of like a very similar sound there. I do believe I have some more cool stuff, mainly this stuff. I like this idea. Maybe I'll chop this up a little bit shorter later. I want to try what this one is. I want one without the snap bit on it, because I don't like how this like laser thing sounds. And there's one over here as well. So we're just cutting out something in between. I guess we'll have this in the breakdown still somewhere. Maybe on the same spot as these ones over here. So that would be right here. Now we have our synths finished as well. And now we need to get to processing all of this. Now the main processing that I'm probably going to do is just removing the lower frequencies. For most of them, I don't really have to do much, mainly for the atmospheres here. Maybe in this case, I really want to lower that lowest harmonic there. We do want to get out a little bit more of this stuff here. Now we have a little bit of a problem in that the first one is going to sound much louder than the second one. So the way that I want to fix this is probably with a redux, which we can leave before here, just to make sure that there's something interesting going on in the high frequencies for both of them. So now we have something like this. As you can see, I decided to add a little bit of movement to the second one over here. What I want to do is a little bit of stereo widening. Stereo field is always very important, and with these atmospheric kind of sounds, you do want them to be a little bit more stereo usually. Nice and out of the way of the main sound. Of course, there's other sounds playing in here, so I'm just going to go one by one here. Here again, we probably want to get most of the texture out of there, which is mainly the higher like overtones of it. That's kind of where that rumbly sound is coming from. And what I would also like for this one to fade in a little bit later. We have this next sound over here. This is quite a loud one here. Mainly want to remove some of the rumble that it has. And probably just lower its volume a lot. Same is going to have to happen with some of these other sounds. Now just for time constraints, I'm going to rush through some of them. This one over here needs a huge reverb. Something like that. Maybe a little bit of extra stereo width and just overall reverbiness would be nice. Stereo generator is perfect for that. Just creates a little bit of extra character, and then we just mix that into the background. Of course, we have some other sounds in here, mainly these synths that are kind of taking over right now just because we haven't gotten to them yet. In this case, we have a very loud synth that is not really helping in trying to mix this sound in. And this one as well. Gonna go like that. What I'll probably end up doing is just to move this one over here. The reason for that is because we have this sound over here and otherwise they're laid on top of each other. So it's really hard to get both of them to sit in there. This is going to be a similar kind of sound. This also has the same thing. We can just copy over some of the EQs at this point. From here, I really just want to grab that higher frequency stuff. That stuff over there, but I want it to come in a little bit more delayed, so I'll just like filter it. On this one, what we should probably do is add a nice long delay so that that rings out for a little bit longer. I'll go with the transmitter because that's nice and bright. A little bit longer in terms of the feedback. So here I have this sound over here. This one here. And overall, I think it's a little bit too bright. Now I could go back in here and find a darker version of this same sound, but another trick that I've been using, which is really cool, is to use something like spectral resonator over here. You can also use the normal one if you like that texture more, but sometimes the spectral one is really nice. I just set it to a key of the track. In this case, we can set it to G#1 here. And sometimes it will give it a nice gritty texture. Maybe an octave lower will do. Something like that, if we mix that in maybe. Let's go to like 70% here. And it just gets a little bit more of a synthy feeling to it as well, which is nice. What I would like is a little bit of chorus on this one, just to wash it out a lot. We'll put this right after the spectral resonator, and then we have this delay cloud one over here, which is really nice. We have to do something about these. Now these become more synth and like shorter plucky things. Stuff like this is really nice to maybe put on a short reverb first, because this one is so very plucky. Just having something like that and then OTTing it. Okay, so now we get a little bit of a longer sound out of that. We'll EQ this one. And now we'll add our delay. 1/8 dotted notes. Let's go with the transmitter, or let's go with the ambient over here. Comes nice and verby. It's a little bit dark. in my opinion. I would like it to be a little bit brighter. Just a delay. Unfortunately, I don't know of any other delay that has that kind of texture, but just brighter. I'm sure if I look around, I could find it, but for now, this will have to do. We'll just move on to the next one over here. This needs to be a lot more stereo and a lot more washed out as well. Really, I mainly want the high frequencies of this though. Something like that. We'll add a delay so that they all mix nicely together. Let's do that before the filtering so that the delay is already happening in the higher frequencies, even though we're filtering out those higher frequencies. Speaking of higher frequencies, I'm going to go with the cheap tape. Just get some nice copies there. Feedback is a little bit on the long side, but now it should be okay. I'll just mix this in fairly low, I guess. A bit of extra reverb on this thing over here. This is our next sound over here. Now this is going to be one of the main sounds because it's playing all the time. So we're going to have a nice big delay on this one. And I mainly just want the high frequency kind of shimmer effects that this one has. And a nice big reverb on this one. So it almost becomes an atmosphere like this. One thing we should probably do is fade these in here, like so. Just going to move them 2 forward so that they fade into this division point over here. What I can do with this one is just glitch it up maybe with the beats mode. If you turn it an octave up and then set it to this looping mode over here, you sometimes get some nice glitch textures. Here we get a different variation. Let's consolidate that. And now that we have the glitch, we can use the complex pro mode to go back down to octaves. Or maybe just one, we go back up with the complex one. We're starting to destroy the sound a bit. But honestly, it doesn't really matter what we do. So for example, what we could do is set this to 16 notes over here, make it shorter like this. So we get something very plucky. And because we have something like the spectral resonator, which as I said, I've been using all the time, we can just reintroduce the tonality of the sound into it. We'll give it some unison so that we just get some width. We get something like that. We'll just EQ this a little bit. What we can do is turn this up 12 semitones. We set this to 12 here, and then we get a rising effect. I don't like to always have the same delay type. So sometimes I go 1/8 dotted, sometimes I go quarter note dotted, sometimes I go quarter note just normal, sometimes even half or even an entire bar. But for this one, quarter note dotted should be okay. I'm getting some really cool airy sound out of that. I think I want to use this differently. I think I'll use this over here and then duplicate that over. Of course, I'll have to copy over modulation as well, or automation, here and here. That's right, we still have two very strong synths over here. I'm going to process these together because they are so similar. That just speeds up the workflow a little bit. So I'm just going to set up a basic processing chain for both of the synths here. I want to just get the grittiness out of it. We will use again Echo Boy. It's become quickly my favorite delay, this one. For these ones, I'm feeling them a little bit later. I keep an ear out for all of the other ones that we've already placed and how they're sitting in the mix as well. So for example, this one, I'm going to get that a little bit quieter. This one, of course, is going to need to be a lot quieter. What I want to do is duplicate these over here. We have one more synth over here. And then one more sound there as well. I think I just want this part here. Maybe it would be nicer to have this play like this and then. And again, we'll use Echo Boy here. Just removing any of the low frequencies. Maybe the transmitter is a little bit better for this one. For this last one over here, I'm just going to copy paste some of the other processing from a different chain here. And this will just be mixed in at like -10. I'll have to do a final check on all of the volumes and maybe mix in some of the other things. And then we'll just have a quick look at the melody that we still have to do. Okay, I think we're all good in terms of all of the mix and all of the sounds that we have in here. What I now quickly just want to do is like make a melody for this. So I'm thinking either here. Maybe something over here. Or maybe something over here. That would be cool to maybe play off of that idea over here. I'm not going to go into music theory too much mainly because I don't really know too much about music theory, to be honest. I just kind of write by ear and I know which notes kind of work. Something like this, maybe have the notes a little bit longer there. And then what we'll do is we'll add our classical delay and reverb to this. Okay, so that's all of the sounds that I want to add for today. Mainly what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you a look behind my workflow when it comes to all of the ear candy and all of that stuff. There's going to be a lot more that this track needs in terms of all of that. And of course, I have to write the rest of the track as well, because as you can see, there's a whole bunch of parts of this track that just completely have nothing. But right now, at least I have a whole bunch of different sounds that I can work from and that I can potentially also use in other parts of the track. Although, as I've said before, I am the kind of guy that uses one-shots very sparingly and sometimes even just uses one-shots maybe once or twice. There could be a very good chance that something like this or this one over here never plays again anywhere else in the track, and I really like doing that. I really like adding that kind of detail stuff to specific parts of the track. But generally speaking, with stuff like these atmospheres and even this flute sound over here, you'll hear that in the rest of the track as well, because it's just nice to have that sitting throughout the whole track. Maybe not in the high energy parts over here, but then when the kick and bass kind of sit more on their own again, over here and maybe over here in the breakdown and in these like lower parts and in the outro as well, it is nice to have a little bit of extra ear candy in there to make that part of the track just a little bit more interesting. So now what I want to do is I want to do a playthrough of the final bit that we have created. And then I'll also do a playthrough without it so that you can hear the difference from before and after. Let's start with what we had before. And if we include the one-shots that we just made, we get something that sounds like this. overall I would say that's a major improvement. So I hope that you learned something from this video. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. If you did, a good way to support me is to check out my products on Gumroad. Another way to support me is to continue watching some of my videos, so there will be 2 up on the screen right now. One is my latest tutorial, the other one is recommended to you by YouTube. So just pick one and enjoy, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.